back everybody. Unit 6, giving to others. Today we are going to focus on speaking. So I want you to open your textbook, go to page 142, focus on speaking. And of course we're going to review our vocabulary first. Okay, we see a beautiful chart that you're going to complete with the different forms of the words. So we're looking at part of speech, noun, verb, adjective, and adverb. Okay guys, real quick. What does an adjective modify? Noun, of course. What does an adverb modify? Yeah, verb, of course. Now, I want you to do this so you can pause your video in order to, complete this chart. Go ahead. Great. On the next page is a speech by the president of the board of directors of a philanthropic organization. I want you to complete the sentences with appropriate forms of words from the box. Then we practice the speech. We have the words access, cause, contribution, focus, moral, motivate, requirement, and response. Okay, let's look. Tsunami Relief Fund, helping others in times of crisis. Okay, here you see the numbers 1 until 8, and you are going to fill this out with the correct words. But also make sure that you put the words with the correct grammar. Pause your video. Go ahead. There is an email here written by an audience member who is a friend of the speaker. Complete the email with expressions from the box. Now, not all the expressions will be used. We've got a learning curve, fly under the radar, in a big way, make a difference, pay off, think outside the box, turn someone down, and year round. I want you to use these phrases in the right and appropriate place in the email. Now, pause your video to do this. Go ahead. You have $1 million to give to a non-profit organization. Read the website information about different organizations and discuss each one. Decide which one to contribute to and how much to give. You can give all the money to one organization or divide it among the other organizations as well. Wow. Every time you use a word from review or expense, check it off in the boxes to see that you can use all the words. So that is from review, access, cause, contribution, focus, moral, motivate, requirement, and response. And from expand, a learning curve, fly under the radar in a big way, make a difference, pay off, think outside the box, turn someone down, and year round. And here we have it, the Nature Conservancy, the International Committee of the Red Cross, Habitat for Humanity International, and Amnesty International. So please, people, you have $1 million. Are you gonna give it to one organization? Are you gonna divide it? And what are your reasons for it? I would like you to give the reasons, what your choice is, and why. Please write that down so we can discuss that in our next meeting. For the grammar, we're going to look at relative pronouns in adjective clauses. This is a big part, is syntax. Now, the syntax is already explained in your ebook for reading and writing. If you look at that one at the beginning for extra or general information, you can see that syntax, it has a grid and it's already explained. So please refer back to that to better understand the syntax, the different sentences and the different clauses that we have. Sting is a popular British musician who is actively involved with humanitarian and environmental causes. With the support of his wife and a native leader, Sting established the Rainforest Foundation, an organization whose goal is to help save the world's rainforests. Although at first it operated only in Brazil, the country where it was founded, the organization now operates in other countries too. In fact, a frog that is native to Colombia has been named after Sting to honor his contributions to the environment. Interesting. Which nouns do the phrases in bold describe? Okay. And which word in bold indicates the noun that is being described? Very good. Try to answer that. Okay, now it's super important that you read that part in the ebook. In the ebook, it describes it already that we have 3 different dependent clauses. We basically have 2 different types of clauses. We have an independent clause that has a subject and a verb and a complete idea, and therefore can stand on its own because it makes sense. And we have a dependent clause which also has a subject and a verb, but not a complete idea, and can therefore not stand alone. It does not make sense. Those 3 dependent clauses are called adjective clauses, adverb clauses, and noun clauses. Okay, in the ebook all 3 are explained. Then it further explains that we have a simple sentence, a compound sentence, a complex sentence, and a compound complex sentence. Today we're going to look at an adjective clause. Adjective clauses, they use relative pronouns as the connector or the glue to connect clauses. Adverb clauses, they use subordinate conjunctions. Noun clauses use WH or WH-ever words to connect the clauses. They need a connector, yeah? Today we're going to look at adjective clauses, also called relative clauses. They're used to add information about nouns. Since an adjective modifies a noun, means that in the independent clause, a noun is introduced, and in the dependent clause, the adjective clause, we further develop and give more information about that noun. If that is about the adjective, the adverb clause, it means that in the independent clause we introduce an action, and in the adverb dependent clause we further develop that action. A noun clause basically substitutes a noun, a subject or an object, which are both nouns, in a sentence. Okay, focus on adjective clauses, yeah? Usually the adjective clause directly follows the noun it refers to. These clauses are introduced by relative pronouns such as who, that, which, whose, where, when. For people we use who and that and whose, and for things we use that and which, and then of course we have where for place and when for time. An identifying and non-identifying. This is very interesting. An identifying, and this is also in the ebook, so please go to the ebook for reading and writing, because the whole thing is explained there. An identifying adjective clause, sometimes called a restrictive clause, gives essential information about the noun it refers to. In writing, commas around the identifying adjective clause are used and are important. So they surround it. So identifying means restrictive. It means it gives important information. Yeah? So restrictive clauses, yeah, they add and then we have the other one, which is a non-identifying adjective clause or non-restrictive clause, gives extra information about the noun it refers to. It is set off in a written sentence by commas. If it is identifying, it does not have commas. If it is non-identifying, it uses commas. So you have to understand, if it is identifying, aka restrictive, means that the extra information that is mentioned in the dependent clause, in the adjective clause, is necessary, because if we don't do that, the sentence is unclear. And because it is necessary, we do not use commas. But in the non-identifying, aka non-restrictive, means that the extra information, which is the adjective clause or the adjective dependent clause, is not really necessary. Without it, the sentence still makes sense. That's why we put it inside 2 commas. So we can look at it here. This is an identifying adjective clause. Who helped establish the rainforest foundation? So the independent clause is Sting is the singer. Subject, verb, complete thought. Makes sense. If I say, who helped establish the Rainforest Foundation, is unclear, right? So it needs the independent clause in order to make sense. Now, we do not use commas here because we need this information in order to create a complete idea. If we say Sting is the singer of what? Which singer? Where? So we need this information in order to make sure that it is clear what this sentence means. But if we're looking at this one, the Rainforest Foundation is working to protect forests around the world, is already very clear. So we don't need this information. If I say which was founded in 1989, is additional information, which is nice, but without it, the sentence is still okay. If you compare that with the first sentence, if we don't add the bold-faced part, then the sentence is unclear because Sting is the singer. Okay, we get that, but the singer, which singer? Related to what? So we need that extra information. So whenever you need the dependent clause, the extra information, means no commas. If you don't need it, means you have to give it commas. Who refers to people? It can be the subject or the object of an adjective clause. Sting is a musician who is considered concerned about the environment. Or there are many hundreds of young people who or whom he has inspired. So it can be the subject or the object. In spoken English, who is usually used instead of the more formal whom, even when it's the object of an adjective clause. That and which refer to places and things. They can be the subject or the object of an adjective clause. That cannot be used in a non-identifying adjective clause, sometimes called a non-restrictive clause or after preposition. So you can only use that for identifying clauses or restrictive. In identifying adjective clauses, English speakers often delete the relative pronoun when it's the object of the verb. For example, this is an organization many young people are interested in. You can take it away or omit it, delete it, when it is the object of the verb. If it's the object of the verb, you can, but not if it's not. If it's not, then you cannot do that. Okay. Whose refers to people's possessions, and where refers to a place, when refers to a time. They can be the object of an adjective clause. Okay. Now you're going to try it out. Fill in the blanks with who, that, which, whose, when, and where. In the correct place. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And we go to the next page. 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21. Pause your video. Go ahead. Okay, in part 3, this is actually a conversation, some kind of dialogue. Student A asks B questions 1 to 4, and then student B cover the left column after and answer the questions. So for example, who's Karen Piddleman? Oh, let me see. I think she's a woman who inherited a lot of money when she was young. Yeah, so you can look at student A and student B. Okay, if you want, you can try this out at home with your sibling or your friend. Go ahead. Awesome, that brings us to the pronunciation, which is intonation and lists. When we list items or talk about a series of items, we use a special intonation depending on whether the list is finished, like everything has been listed, or unfinished. There are more items in the list that are not mentioned yet. For the items in a finished list, the speaker's voice rises on every item except the last one. Up, up, and the last one down. The word and is usually used in finished lists. The Nature Conservancy works with corporations, communities, and non-profit organizations. For the items in an unfinished list, the speaker's voice rises on every item, including the last one mentioned. This tells your listener that there are other possibilities. The conjunction and is not usually used in a closed list, but can be. People who volunteer with the Nature Conservancy include students, local business people, nature lovers, and that's where it stops. So it is not yet finished. Okay, let's look at that. Listen to the conversation, then answer the questions.
My neighbor said you could help me find some volunteer work. I'd really like to work with people.
Great. We're looking for volunteers at the senior center, the library, and the after-school program.
What's available in the after-school program? I like working with kids, but I'm taking classes myself, so my schedule is a little tight.
Well, let's see. The teacher of the youngest group needs an assistant on Monday, Tuesday, and Friday.
Okay. Ms. Johnson mentions positions at the senior center, the library, and the after-school program. Do you think Ms. Johnson has other volunteer positions available? And number 2, does the teacher of the youngest group in the after-school program need help on Wednesday, and how do you know? Try to answer that. Okay. We are going to listen to the sentences. Write F in the blank if the speaker has finished the items or ideas in the list. Write a U in the blank if the list is unfinished, and underline the words or ideas that are being listed. Let's go.
1. The World Wildlife Fund works with governments, local communities, nonprofits.
2.
How can you help? You can help by giving your time, your money, and your ideas.
3.
I need a vacation. I'm tired of waking up early, spending hours on the road, working at night.
4.
If you volunteer at the senior center, you'll feel good about yourself, meet new people, and learn more English.
5.
Americans give a lot between Thanksgiving and Christmas. There are food drives, coat drives, toy drives.
Very good. Okay, take some time to answer this. Pause your video. Great. Now we are at number 3. Listen to the conversation, underline the words or ideas in lists, and draw intonation lines over those items. Let's go.
Are you having Thanksgiving dinner at your house?
Actually, every year we spend Thanksgiving at a homeless shelter. We decorate the shelter, help with the cooking, serve the guests, and talk to them. Would you like to come?
Yes, I really would. For a long time, I've been thinking about volunteering somewhere. At a school, the library, a retirement home. This sounds so interesting.
Great! We can pick you up here Thursday morning. Just bring your hands, your energy, and a smile. The shelter supplies everything else.
Okay, so what are you gonna do? Draw the intonation lines over the items. Yeah, underline the words or ideas and lists, and draw the intonation lines. Like, so which one are the ones in lists, and what is the intonation, going up or going down? Okay, think at least of 3 things that ordinary people could do to help your school or your town or your country. Describe them clearly. Give reasons why you think that people could do that. I want you to speak clearly and use intonation carefully, okay? Great, that brings us to the last part, which is the speaking skill. Read the conversation between 2 students who are working on a project together. So let's pay attention to the expressions in bold, yeah? Our top priority is also important. Okay, so let's get started and get this philanthropy research paper finished. Our top priority is selecting the right topic, don't you think? Yeah, but it's also important to make sure we can get the information we need for the research. Then there's the writing and the editing. Well, I think the least important thing right now is the writing. We can only do that when we have everything else we need first. When people are discussing more than one task or idea, it helps to prioritize or rank them to indicate the most important to the least important. So here are some useful expressions for prioritizing or ranking ideas. Highest priority, also a priority, or lowest priority. So from highest priority, we would say our top priority is first of all, first and foremost, above all. For the also a priority list, it would be but it's also important. In addition, another consideration is, or aside from that. For the category lowest priority, we could say the least important thing is, of least concern is, or the lowest priority is. Okay, read the ads for volunteer jobs with non-profit organizations. Wanted part-time worker at a neighborhood animal shelter, position volunteer fundraiser for charitable healthcare organization. Volunteer help needed hospital worker, volunteers needed public radio station needs volunteer telephone representatives. So read the personal qualities listed and let's look at the qualities that are needed for each job and then prioritize those qualities. You know, I want you to look at which is the most important, also important, and the least important. Use the vocabulary and grammar you have learned in this unit. So the important qualities for job candidates: be able to, be, and have. For example, first and foremost, volunteers at the animal shelter must love animals. Of course, but it's also important for them to have good communication skills, don't you think? Yes, you're right. And aside from that, I think the animal shelter will want a person who has good office skills for the administrative work. So remember, we have this, 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 or this. There are 4 different ones. Okay, so I want you to pick one and to discuss the qualities that are needed. Very good. That brings us to the very last part, which is the speaking project. And you're gonna make a PSA, a public service announcement. Remember, it's got to be persuasive. You need to use sound, you need to use visuals for it, and edit it nicely. Make sure that you appear in that video and you speak, since it is a speaking project. And it can only take 30, as short as 30 seconds and not longer than 60. So between 30 and 60 seconds. Yeah. How can you plan it? Audience, method, and request. Yeah. And make sure that you have a tagline. That is one sentence that gives a very clear advice or a clear instruction or input whatsoever. It's one sentence, but it makes a lot of sense because it really captures the meaning. Okay. Okay, then we are at the end of our video already for today. Let's recap what we did today. We did a lot of things today. Yeah, we started off with a review of our vocabulary. Then we went over our grammar, relative pronouns in adjective clauses, and a very short summary of syntax, which you can find in your ebook for reading and writing. Then we practiced our pronunciation, intonation, and lists. An unfinished list, the intonation goes up. A finished list, the intonation goes down. Up, 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 and it ends down. And then we practiced speaking skill, prioritizing or ranking ideas. Very good. Thank you very much for today. You are amazing, and I'll see you soon. God bless you. Bye.